with so many stories in our brain, in our bank, on our laptops, that some get shared in their beautiful 9-minute features on our stories with Kate Scott and you and Mike and all of us. And some of them are on a podcast like you host. And some of them don't get shared, or some during a game or whatever. So I'm curious for you, generally, just throw a story out at us. What a story from Ashley's archives like you?
Yeah, you know what? First of all, I just want to say that I love, this is an awesome idea. And now that I know that this is going to be a theme, I'm going to go right down, because you're right. There's so many little anecdotes, and not even, full fledged out, like you mentioned, 9-minute stories, but there's just so many things that happen that we get to see and experience that we don't ever have an opportunity to share. So I got to go back to the memory bank and again, write some stuff down. But the one that pops up, and just keeping in the theme of what we'd started talking about with Sabrina, was that I cannot get the image. One of the best images that I have in my mind from the last month has been being in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay when Oregon beat Stanford in the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, throttled them. And they were able to cut down those nets. And there was this joy and relief for those of you listening and watching who maybe don't know. They lost to Stanford the year before in the championship game. So it was part of that unfinished business and checking that box that Sabrina was all about. But I think about all of the student athletes who didn't get to have any closure whatsoever on their seasons, and that was kind of all stripped away, and there was no bow, there was no ending, there was no finality to it. And at least for them, it wasn't the final ending that they wanted, but I think there is a silver lining. And I was going back through my phone, and the very last picture that I took that was basketball related in March was Ruthie Hebard standing at the top of the ladder, swinging around a piece of net with just this like smile that took up the entire frame of the picture. And everybody's looking up at her. You can see Sabrina and Kelly Graves, and everybody's looking up at her smiling. And it was one of those moments that I'm like, man, how lucky am I that I have this job? How lucky that I get to see this team up close and personal. And none of us in that building had any idea that it was the last time that they were all going to be together as a team. No one obviously had any clue that was a possibility. I just feel really, really lucky that I was able to be there and experience it and see that joy and see them all, mash cupcakes in Kelly Graves' face and celebrate together, because it was truly a team that's going to be remembered for a really long time. We've had a lot of special teams in the past. We'll have special teams in the future, but I don't think there's going to be another one like that ever again. And so I just felt really lucky that I was able to take part in that joy and see kind of that moment and talk to Sabrina and talk to Ruthie and her parents and, Mignon Moore and just all of those incredible, incredible student athletes who were part of something really special. So for that, I was really grateful. What do you got for me? I know you've got a whole litany of stories. What do you got cooking today?
Well, so much was running through my mind as you said it. We only had a couple of these episodes, and you prepare, right? You write down a list of a couple, and then I hear you talk about Kelly Graves, and I hear you talk about a coach, and I hear you talk about a great player, and I instantly click back into Pete Carroll. And there's a lot of stories I could tell about Pete. Many have been documented. One of my favorite stories of all time was when we played Notre Dame. Ted Robinson, J.B. Long, where you went to undergrad, okay? And everybody knows the deal. And it's Charlie Weiss. And people don't know the history of Charlie and Pete. Like, they basically kind of traded jobs, Patriots and the Jets. And in the NFL, it's obviously highly competitive. And here comes Charlie Weiss, and he declares himself like the smartest coach. I think his quote was, "We're going to have a decided schematic advantage," at his press conference, which is great, right? Obviously, he felt great about himself. And they had Brady Quinn, and they were rolling. Jeff Samardzija, they had a safety, the boxer. Yeah. And away we go. And we go to South Bend. We're top team. We've won, I don't know, called 20-some straight games in a row, 2 straight natties. We're on our way to our 3rd straight national championship appearance. And we pull into South Bend on Thursday, because when you go to South Bend, you always fly a day early. Most teams do, just because of the time change. Thursday nights, whatever. Friday comes. And Thursday, I'll tell that story next time. There's a Thursday night story of the plane, which was crazy. But Friday, we get there, and the bus starts going back and forth. And everybody shakes the bus now, but nobody had prior to this. And it was the first time we pull into Notre Dame Stadium, and there's about 10,000 fans there for our walkthrough, screaming at us, throwing stuff at the bus. And all of a sudden, I'm on bus number 1 with the offense. Starts to sway left to right. Then bus number 2 starts to go. 3, and then 4, and all 4 buses are going, and like, you think they're going to tip over, because this is the first of our experiences. And we get off the bus and the confidence is there, the swag is there. We go out and see the grass. It's like 6 inches higher than it should be because Reggie's so fast. And we fast forward all the way to the fourth quarter, 4th and 9. And I'll never forget being on the headset, sitting next to Lane. He's to my left. Sark is down on the field. Pete's there as well. And we call a play called Y option, which is the tight end. The tight end's going to run a little option route, which means he can go straight, out, or in. And we say, hey, if there's a certain look, change the call. So Lane goes, it's the look, change it. We change the play, and it's the audible is 82 stay. 82 stay, Sluggo Z win. That's the play. And it's my favorite play in all of football, right? For the passing game, it's God's play. And he calls the audible. He throws a slant and go to Dwayne Jarrett. Dwayne catches it. We think he's going to run all the way down. He doesn't, get stopped, and it's pandemonium. And Pete is super calm, and he deals with it. The clock gets stopped, and then the symbol, Sark starts going like this, like spike it, spike it, spike it. But the trick was if you pointed at the quarterback, that meant you got the option to run it. Don't just spike it. That was kind of our trick signal. Matt, of course, the push happens, and we win. The game ends, and Pete and I don't know if anybody knows, but we were both sleeping in the office 3 or 4 days a week. And I remember when we got back, I think it was like that next day, that Sunday, we were talking about the game. And he goes, you know what? Amid the chaos, you go back and you watch the game. He goes, I was so proud of himself. He goes, I was so poised. And he goes, that's something I've trained myself to be. Like, if you look at our sideline, it is pandemonium. Coaches screaming, water bottles. We had one coach, my buddy, ran all the way down out of the coach's box to like the 5-yard line. Should have been thrown a flag. Like, it was the definition of not being poised. But Pete was just poised. And I say that on the heels of like maybe what we're in now, of like maybe there's this element of like we're aware that it's crazy, and we're aware that like we don't know what's across the street, or let alone on our table, whatever. But like maybe there's an element of poise that we can pull among a chaotic situation. And I hadn't told this story in probably 5 years, Ash, and never told it comparing obviously something as tragic as the coronavirus, but I think of it now and I'm like, yeah, Pete is like, he's been trained for poise. And yeah, at 22, 23, that had such an impact on me.
Remember it. Yeah. I mean, I think that is the perfect story to tell right now. And I think a lot of people, we all talk about leadership and stepping up and what leadership is. And what leadership is being poised in chaos. That's what I think it is. And, I think a lot of people are finding out a lot about themselves, about the people they work with, about people in their families, given how everyone's dealing with it, and everybody has their own way to cope. But when you're around somebody who is poised and who is level, it's a gift because it allows, it rubs off on you. And I think that's that's an awesome, great story. I love that. And I remember that so well, man. I was watching that game with my dad, who's the biggest domer of all time. Totally. And I don't know that he's ever been more upset about a loss, other than when they got blown out by Oregon State in the Fiesta Bowl. I don't know that I've ever seen him so devastated after a loss. So yeah, that was, now that I know on the other, that you were on the sideline as part of that, I'm gonna remind my pops of that for sure.
Yeah, send him the episode. All right, speaking of, you can check it out on our YouTube channel for this episode. For past ones, go to PAC-12.com for anything that you want on Pac-12 sports. Our content's going to be coming out. I can't wait, Ash. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be doing a lot of these conversations. You can subscribe to the podcast, Ted and Yogi's Pac-12 Adventure, for Pac-12 football stories from all over the sports world. Ashley, thank you for joining. I love the studio setup.
Hey, you know what? I'll try and work a little bit more with the lights and maybe some backdrops. But this is what we're working with up here. It's the only place that I have a lock on the door in my house. So.
It's perfect. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your week.
You too. You're the best.
All right.